I fell behind on my health care, and they canceled my health insurance, and they told me I have to wait until open enrollment. There's only 5 stages of kidney disease, and I'm in the 5th stage. Murder, it's murder. You know, if you ask me, it's murder.
I lost a son to gun violence, and I lost a daughter. No parent should have, in America, should have to bury their child for a lack of medical space. I'm wailing because my children,
my God,
are no more.
My God, Kevin.
I'm wailing, y'all. Wailing. Cause my babies ain't no more. How many more babies? How many more children?
No more.
Who is Lauren Sheck? Tomorrow Monday, Bishop Barber.
Tomorrow Monday, march on Mitch McConnell. Let's say it one time. Tomorrow Monday, march on Mitch McConnell. A call in. This is the new Jack City. Y'all know where we would be if it wasn't for COVID, right on the Independence Boulevard, right? Going right into the Russell Building or the Capitol. Much pushing this man who often gets a pass, but should not be getting a pass. Because all of these bad policies, these bad stimulus bills have come because of him. He called himself, I wish somebody could put it up. I need to put it up before I go to my co-chair, the Grim Reaper. Put it up. Can you put that up? Is there any way to put that up? Did you all know this man said he was the Grim Reaper? Yeah, he said that. If you check that out, we have a video that goes with that as well, where he was in a group of people and he was saying, I'm not gonna let all of these so-called socialist things go through, like voting rights, is that social? Like healthcare, like unemployment insurance. Now, of course, he let the socialism go through and corporate socialism, but he said, I am the Grim Reaper. Well, Mr. McConnell, that's not just a playful word. People are dying because you're blocking policy. People are dying. People are hurting. People who have worked and who've tried and who keep on, poor and low wealth people, and we are tired of it. And because we're people of faith and people of morality, we're tired of it. Because we have a right to have a moral, what we call a righteous indignation about what's going on. And nobody has more of that I know in America than the Reverend Dr. Liz Steele Harris. She is a theologian, and she clearly knows that when you're a person of faith, you also have to be a person that will fight for justice. She is the co-chair of the Poor People's Campaign National Call for Moral Revival, and I'm kicking it to her right now. You need to be calling folk, letting them know, come in on this live, come in on this live, come in on this Facebook, come on, tell people we need to call. Is the number up yet? We want folk calling in to shut down this switchboard. He needs to feel it from all over this country, calling in, telling him to pass a just and comprehensive and compassionate bill now. That is a real stimulus. All right, Liz, it's your turn. You're up.
All right, thanks, Reverend Dr. Barber, and thanks for joining us here for this moral march on Mitch McConnell, calling out his meanness, calling out the misery that he's causing, calling out the mayhem that is taking over this country as we push and we build power and as we demand a just relief package for all of us right now. And we're here to say, and we could say this every day, but we're saying this to you, Mitch McConnell, today, to all of our elected representatives in Congress, that it's heretical, right? It's downright heresy to hold up the Constitution, to hold up and swear an oath on the Bible, and then trample on the rights of every person in this country to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We are, as we all know, the Poor People's Campaign, a national call for moral revival. And we have folks in 46 states across the country, in Mitch McConnell's state of Kentucky, in states all across this country, representing some of the 140 million people who are poor and low income. Folks that are coming forward and demanding today, call in McConnell's line directly today to demand a true relief bill, a bill that guarantees health care, that has an adequate income for everybody, that protects housing, that protects water and utilities, and that prioritizes the needs of all people, especially the poor, rather than what we've seen so far from McConnell and his junkies, that's been protecting the welfare of the wealthy and of corporations. As millions of people in this country edge closer to the precipice of economic ruin, to closer to hunger and sickness and death, McConnell continues to double down on austerity. This failed and stalled stimulus package in the Senate isn't about lifting up the people. It's about protecting corporations who are knowingly endangering people, forcing them back to work. We haven't had a new federal moratorium on evictions, and now 28 million people face evictions before September 1st. There are cuts to this unemployment benefits, and instead blaming poor people for what really is that our elected leadership is failing. And this is all happening in both the worst public health crisis in over a century, and as this society heads towards an economic depression, right? As folks might have heard, last week, the US GDP fell by about 33% in the second quarter. That's the greatest collapse of the US economy in a single quarter ever in history. And how do we not have a just stimulus package in the midst of that? We have hundreds of millions of people without health care. We have millions of people becoming homeless. And what we know is that people are going hungry in this country that throws out more food than takes to feed every person in this country. Our sacred texts are clear that what we're seeing, that what McConnell is doing is sin of the highest order. Bailing out the rich and leaving the poor to fend for themselves is evil. Sacrificing children to the altar of greed is anathema. For depriving the rights of the poor, legislating evil is wrong. And at moments like this, while hurricanes are destroying lives and livelihoods, while untold numbers are dying from a public health crisis that could have been averted, when there's a surge in racist violence and justice and democracy are under attack, such plagues lay bare the foundations of injustice, and prophets are called forth to preach doom and to awaken the society to higher ground. We are in a moment when we've been honoring folks like C.T. Vivian and John Lewis. We also remember leaders like Emma Sanders, one of the founders of the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party, who also died in this week of all these fallen fighters. She was in that same delegation with Fannie Lou Hamer, challenging a racist democracy that we're still living in today. And Fannie Lou Hamer has a message, I think, for Mitch McConnell and anyone who calls themselves Christians. Christianity, she says, is being concerned about others, not building multi-million programs while people are starving right around the corner. Christ was a revolutionary person out there where it was happening. That's what God is all about. And that's where I get my strength. Well, we are here, more people from Christianity and from other faith traditions who are building strength in this revolutionary movement and demanding we need a just relief package. We need it now. McConnell, these deaths, this suffering is on your watch, and we will continue to flood your phone lines until we get justice for all. Thank you very much.
You're right on top of it, Liz, until we get justice for all. And look, I just got a revelation. We might have to do tomorrow, Monday, next Monday, and the next, I don't know. Rob, you started this. Rob Stephen is the Rob. He's the one that came up with all of this. So y'all can see him right on the line, Reverend Rob Stephen. But the bottom line is this is serious business. Did y'all hear what Liz said about people dying? Did you hear what she said about how heretical this is? And Mitch McConnell often gets passed because Trump does all these antics and everybody focuses on that. But the Senate has been at the center of being more concerned about the corporations, treating corporations like people and people like things than any other body, a political body in this country. And it's high time that we put a focus. Now, there are about 6,000 people on right now. We need you all to text this everywhere. We need you to call folk. We need you to tweet them. We need you to, every one of you, to call that switchboard. Now, they tell me in Capitol Hill, if they get 25 to 50 calls simultaneously on one subject, they call that an emergency. Well, let's make this an emergency. We need all 5,000 of you. How do you do it? You can go to ppc.org, or you can look right on your screen. It'll tell you exactly where to go. You go there, and then it'll show you how to call and everything. But this is an action call, yo. This is us on Independence Boulevard in Washington, D.C. This is us in the Russell building. This is us right up in his office. We're just doing it New Jack City style and using the digital way of doing this, because what is the truth of the matter is we won't be silent anymore. Let me tell you a couple things when we go to Kentucky, because I got a question for Kentuckians. Maybe we are wrong. Maybe we shouldn't be this concerned about Mitch. I don't know. So let's talk to some people from his state. But what I do know, as of Friday, 30 million plus workers that were receiving $600 a week have been cut off. 50 million people have applied for unemployment since this thing began. And some of our restaurant workers, guess what? They can't even apply because they make $2 and something an hour and plus tips. And so they tell them they don't qualify for unemployment. What I do know is before all of this happened, we had 87 million people in this country already uninsured and underinsured because McConnell and others would not even when they passed the Affordable Care Act, they made it so states could opt out. They won't take up universal health care. They've allowed states to continue to suppress the vote because McConnell won't redo the Voting Rights Act. The states that have suppressed the vote, they elect people, but they elect people, they block the Affordable Care Act. So we got 87 million people without health care, uninsured. But in the midst of this, 27 million more have been added. That's 114 million people, y'all. That's 114 million people without health care, uninsured, in the midst of a pandemic. And they don't even want to pass. He doesn't even want to let a bill pass that will guarantee sick leave and guarantee health care and guarantee unemployment. Guess what? He has it. Just because he's a senator, he gets free health care. Just because he's a senator, he gets more than a living wage. Just because he's a senator, he gets guaranteed unemployment, guaranteed retirement. I think you only have to work, be a senator like 2 terms, and you get the retirement the rest of your life. Come on, y'all. This is time to have some righteous indignation, some holy fire, that kind of love like my grandmama had. She said, I love you enough, boy, to tell you the truth. Well, it's time for some truth telling. And now I want to talk to some folk out of Kentucky, because I don't know. Maybe we're wrong, Liz. Maybe we're wrong. Let's just assume that. But the folk in Kentucky, they know the real deal about they'll tell us, is Mitch good for Kentucky? Because if he's not doing right for Kentucky, he's surely not doing right for the rest of us. So we got Pam Mitchell, we got Tanya Fogel, we got Father Norm Fisher, we got Father, and we got Arnold Farr. We're going in that order. Each of them going to take like a couple of minutes, and they're going to talk to the nation, and they're going to tell us why, as Kentuckians, we either need to just be quiet and go home and not worry about Mitch because he's so good, or they're going to tell us the real deal and tell us why we need to be calling in. Go to that site on your screen. Tell everybody you know. Text this, tweet this, Instagram yourself while you're talking to us and listening on this. But it's time to raise up, y'all. Pam?
Thank you, Reverend Barber, and everybody. Yeah, we know that Senator McConnell is bad for Kentucky and bad for the country. And the hypocrisy, we could just bite nails here in Kentucky because the hypocrisy is so deep. $400 for working people, and to sacrifice working people over the difference between a $200 support and unemployment and $400 support and unemployment. But we're not buying it here in Kentucky. We are building people in our urban areas who struggle to financially make it, have a lot more in common with people in other parts of the state, poor and working class people in other parts of the state. And so we're working hard to bring these issues and all of us together relieve our suffering, because it was untenable before the pandemic, and it's really untenable now, the way people are suffering and the way lives are sacrificed like they don't matter. And it's not all right with us at the Kentucky PPP.
And Pam, you got people there, black, white, brown, everybody, because there's some news media on. You know, it's people from every different background. Am I right? That are just tired of this.
Yeah, we're all over the state.
Okay.
Every background.
Where's my sister at?
From the coal mines to the urban areas and all over the state.
That's right. Miss Fogle?
You better believe it, from the hood to the holler.
That's what I'm talking about.
From the hood to the holler. Somebody's hurting our people, and it's gone on far too long. Reverend Barber, I'm bringing to you the fact that Mitch McConnell is no good for voting. Voting rights is just awful in this state. And we even had a Secretary of State who pushed a Senate Bill 2 that enforces that everyone has to have an ID in November going to the polls. How in the hell can we do that when the DMVs are closed down because of the pandemic? What is wrong with these people in leadership in Kentucky? I am furious about the voting rights. We were already oppressed and suppressed from the voting machines. And here we are now in the midst of a pandemic, and they're introducing and passing more bad laws. That's what I came here to tell you. But I want to lift up the fact that we're pushing mail-in voting. We have that last primary that we just came through. I had never seen so many people in this moment go to the polls to vote in our primaries in Kentucky. That is what they're afraid of.
That's right.
We have 152 people who are under the governor's executive orders. That's people with felonies in their past that are allowed to vote now. We are engaging. The Poor People's Campaign and other coalitions are engaging to locate that 152,000 folks.
Wow.
We only got a short window, but we're pushing.
That's right. Let me ask you something now, because see, Mitch McConnell, you know, I think your screen froze up. It should come back, but you can still hear me. Now, Brother Mitch McConnell, he said, and I didn't say this, so don't you get mad at me now. He and others of his folks said that the reason he wants to cut unemployment from $600 to $200, by the way, which would only be $5 an hour, is because y'all in the hood just staying home party. Y'all ain't working. Now, that's what he said. Now, I'm just telling what, you know, that's what they're suggesting. That you don't need the unemployment, because the reason you're not going back to work is not because of COVID, it's not because of the virus, it's because folks are just sitting, chilling in the hood, you know, having parties. Is that the truth?
Partying on. Everybody that's on this call listening, I need you to go to that switchboard right now and invite Mitch McConnell down to the hood. Tell him come to the hood, come to the holler, because the stimulus package, that still wasn't even enough for people to survive on. So whatever he has in his mind, he is not living the poor life. We here are making conscious decisions. Do we buy a gallon of milk, or do we go get our medication? Or do we we can't even afford to send our kids to the hospital. They just put a Band-Aid on it and send them right back home. So how dare he say that we're here partying? Partying on what? Partying takes money. He certainly ain't giving us none.
That's right. And I think he really doesn't like, because you say from the hood to the holler. I mean, something's happening. Y'all reaching back, grabbing Ann Braden and all that, pulling black and white people together. And that's really that coalition. Now, look, we got 3 minutes before we got a special guest. I'm going to drop that guest in, then come back to Kentucky. But I want to hear from Father Norman Fisher, because I heard is Father on the line? I heard Father
Norman's on the line.
I heard Father Norman Fisher didn't play. He's Catholic brother, but he'll tell the truth. He like the Pope. He don't play. He know what a scandal is when it comes. So, Father, would you talk to us a little bit and tell folks, you know, why they need to be pushing Mitch McConnell to pass a comprehensive, compassionate, and just legislation, and why it's wrong. This is what he said he wanted to do. He said, I don't want to do this unemployment at $600, but what I want to do is I want tax breaks, $250 billion more for the wealthy. I want $28 million more for the military they didn't even ask for. He said, I want legal immunity to corporations who hire workers in unsafe conditions. So if the workers get sick, they can't be sued for liable. And you know, what they've done over the last 3 months, don't y'all cuss too loud, wealthy, greedy folk have made $755 billion off of this. I see Liz just perked up. Greedy folk in the midst of COVID have made $755 billion a year over the last few months, while people are suffering. Father, talk to us about that out of your faith tradition and why we're right to call him out.
Indeed, indeed. We are a people who believe in the truth of our own Catholic social teaching that when one suffers, we all suffer. And we should uphold the dignity of all people. Why are we looking at the top? Why is our energy and our emphasis focused on only those who have? The reality is those who have not want to have as well. I wish somebody in his position would just realize that we are in a pandemic and it has affected all those who have been at once employed. So this isn't something they chose for themselves. These are some things that they're trying to work out. So we want to underscore the importance of having a just reality for all peoples who are suffering at this time, and not just look at the people who can give back to make a difference for the government, but those who are in a part of our state who really are trying to survive, but they don't want to just survive, they want to thrive. They want to be who they're called to be and know that they have an opportunity to share their blessings and give back. It's not a free ride. This is something that we've never ever experienced, and the effects of this pandemic are overwhelming. And so we have to look at everybody's situation, not just those who have, but those who want to have as well. And I think that's the injustice of Mitch McConnell at this time. His focus is so askew from reality. If you just think about people who have families, think about people who are trying to even get back into some kind of sense of normalcy. There is no normalcy, but he's trying to look at the old way and the old regime and those who have done something for him. We need to look at the people who are trying to put their lives together each and every day and make sure they have some kind of sense of stability so that they can give back and contribute.
That's right, because he's not even been taking care of Kentucky. I mean, you've got thousands and thousands of people even before COVID that were already poor and low wealth. 140 million people in the country, 62 million people working without a living wage, 140 million people in the country who were who were poor and low wealth. And I did some math on that. That means if 700 people are dying a day from poverty, that means somebody's dying every day from poverty every 2.5 minutes, even before COVID. Y'all hear what I'm saying? Even before COVID. And Mitch was against healthcare before COVID. He called it socialism. He's against living wages before COVID. He's held up fixing the Voting Rights Act for 7 years, And too often he's quiet and underneath, he says he's the Grim Reaper. So that's his name, not my name. So he moves underneath, and we have got to pull him to the top and let people see what's going on, because too many folks Trump, but they miss that Mitch McConnell is the one that's either blocking bills. I think they say he's got 200 bills under his seat that he won't even let out, and other bills that he refuses to let forward, because he always starts with not how can I do right by the people in the hood and in the holler, but how can I do right by the corporate. He starts there every time, and it's wrong. Look, let's blow up that switchboard, y'all. Now, I don't mean blow it up with no dynamite. I mean blow it up by calling it. Look on your screen, text somebody, tell somebody. Put thousands of calls. I wish we could get to 100,000 today. And it's possible, y'all. If we got 6,000 or 10,000 people on now, text 10 people. Tell them to join us, because we are putting a march on Mitch McConnell, an old style call in using New Jack City ways. Now, I got a friend, I think he's on. He may be on DL Hughley. He's got to go right back to the radio. I want to drop him in this, because I've been talking to DL about this. I said, man, what kind of craziness is this? 30 million people plus unemployed, 50 million people have filed for unemployment, 20 million people haven't even received it. And you have Mitch McConnell saying he wants to make sure that corporations are protected first, before people are protected, before he makes sure that people have unemployment, sick leave. And by the way, y'all, what he's doing and what happened the other night, anywhere from 10 to 15 million people could now go homeless. And by having a moratorium on rent and a moratorium that runs out, not a forgiveness, actually, there's some study now that when you do a moratorium, it ends up hurting your credit. So you get hurt on the back end as well. What people really need is a forgiveness. But DL, and look, DL, you can say what you want to say. This is Moral Monday. We love the Lord. We love Bible. But look, we talk real talk. We come from the hood and the holler, like my sister said. And this is no time to be playing. As Martin Luther King said, any religion or any society or any policy that damns men's soul is wrong. So DL, are you on? Give us a shout before we go to the next
I sure am, Reverend Barber. And I just want to say it's good to see you. We've been talking over Twitter, we've been texting back and forth. And I understand what you're saying. I think that we in this country have proven that we have a disdain for the poor, and particularly from coffers of power. And Mitch McConnell is the arbiter of that. As bad as Trump is, you were exactly right. He is the getaway car driver. And I think his lips are thin, but he could use them to speak out for what he knows is wrong. He's a turtle looking son of a bitch, but he ain't got to move this. And I think that it shows you everything you need to know about how they feel about the people who are less than, the people who they perceive as less than. Right now, we know that benefits are running out, that this could be the largest number of people who are poor instantly in America all at one time. People are being put out of their homes. They have nowhere to eat and feed their children. And right now what they want to do is those people back to either low paying jobs where they're going to be in a more dangerous, imagine, or arguing right now because we're thinking that people are trying to scam the system basically and get rich off unemployment. Like that's their goal. I think people's goals is to try the same goal as everybody else is to try to survive. So call Mitch McConnell, not the names that we usually call him. Call him and put pressure on him because he does not have a conscience. And he does not have, emotions at all, but he does understand power, and that power is in your voices. So make sure you call Mitch McConnell, and after you can't call him, you can call him all the names we usually do. So, Reverend Barber, I love you. You keep doing what you do, man, and God bless you, man.
Man, we're so glad you made it through too. We know what you had with COVID, but keep on and be stronger now, Doc, and we keep praying for you. Thank you, Brother Hughley.
Right on.
Y'all heard it from DL. He said, don't call him what you normally call him first. Call Mitch McConnell, talk these facts, tell him we want a bill that's compassionate, that's just, that's caring for people. Be reminded of what's happening and how many people are hurting. They had said that poverty would go to 50% with the stimulus in place. Without the stimulus in place, we could be way over 50%. And remember, we were already at 43% of this nation in poverty before this. And if he and others had come together before COVID wouldn't even have so much power if we had dealt with poverty and racism and living wages before. But be all that as it may, this is just wrong. I mean, this is wrong enough before, but this is a form of policy evil and policy murder in the midst of a pandemic. It's like somebody being drowning, and instead of you throwing them the life directly, you pull it back from them. And there's nothing about that. This is scandalous. Now I want to go back to my brother. I want to go back to my brother in Kentucky, Arnold Fur. Arnold, you on, man. Tell your truth and say to folk why we need them to go to that screen, go to ppc.org, call Mitch McConnell, say what you need to say, brother, because you're from Kentucky. You got something to tell us.
Reverend Barber, thank you and Pastor Liz for having us. I'm going to say this. I'm happy that DL cussed already because I have a tendency to cuss and I'm going to try not to. But let me say this. I want to respond to McConnell's claim about people in Kentucky not needing unemployment because we're partying. Two things. First of all, Tony got it right. We're too broke to party. Secondly, McConnell has no idea what people are doing in Kentucky because he's not here. McConnell took office roughly 35 years ago, and when he did, Kentucky was struggling with a high rate of poverty then. We were struggling with issues of health then. And in the 35 years that he's been in office, there's not been any movement toward progress. Things have not gotten better, but in fact, things have gotten worse. And we're seeing more and more Kentuckians denied health care, more and more Kentuckians falling into poverty in the time that he's in office. And we get no attention from him whatsoever. He's decided to turn his back on Kentucky and to go to bed with large corporations. And he is the Grim Reaper. But everybody needs to know, and I want everybody in Kentucky to know that he's the Grim Reaper because his policies and his lack of action is killing Kentuckians. It's Kentuckians that he's killing. It's Kentuckians in the state of Kentucky, and it's Kentuckians who are dying because of lack of health care and poverty because of his refusal to pay us any attention whatsoever. The state has been completely ignored by its own senator, and I think it's past time for him to go. And we're mobilizing across the state, as Tana said, and Pam, that we're organizing from the hood to the holler because Mitch McConnell for 35 years has been a cancer, I say a satanic cancer, in the belly of Kentucky, and it's time to remove it.
Well, you know, it's interesting what you say because the PPC, like you said, we don't endorse any candidate. We endorse a set of ideals. And what we ask folks is simply to look at the candidate based on the idea. If you need health care, where are they on health care? If you need living wages, where are they on living wages? And look at the stats. Look at the thousands of people, black, white, Latino, gay, straight, young, old, in Kentucky that are suffering and right now who are hurting. And so you're exactly right. And you know, I know they're not going to like this, but the Bible says, woe unto those who legislate evil. I didn't say it. The Bible calls mistreatment of the poor evil. The Bible says any nation that turns its back on the hungry and the sick and the imprisoned and those that and the least they called it evil. And God said that the nation going to be judged by that. So don't get mad with us if you're on or if you're in the media. So they call him evil. We said policies. I don't know what he is personally, but I know what his policies represent. And I'm going to use the language. I'm going to use moral language. I'm tired of using all of this correct language. I'm going to use the language of the scriptures where it says it's evil, it's wrong, it's unjust, it's mean-spirited. One place describes politicians who hurt the poor as being like ravaging wolves who devour the people. That's what the scriptures say. And everywhere that comes up, the scripture says, whoa, stop it, stop it, stop it. Stop murdering people is what the scripture said when you pass policies that hurt poor people. Just quit and working people and low-wage people. And it's time for this righteous indignation. That's why we need y'all to come on from Kentucky, because so folks know it's just not some quote-unquote outsiders. The reality is, I wish that McConnell would, and by the way, we're asking people to send in a Bible and a Constitution. Now the Bible we ask, after you do the call, you can email, you can FedEx or however you can a Bible called the Poverty and Justice Bible and a copy of the Constitution. I think we're gonna have a link for that where you can do it and send it to his office, because evidently he's not reading one line in it, because you know they put their hand on the Bible and swear to uphold the Constitution, where the Bible said the first thing you ought to be concerned about is the poor, the hurting, and the immigrant. And the Constitution says you're supposed to establish justice, you're supposed to provide for common defense and promote the general welfare. And if you're not doing that, you are constitutionally inconsistent, morally indefensible, and you are economically insane. This is insane economics. We already were headed toward a Great Depression. This is going to put us more in that Great Depression. And the wealthy greedy, not all wealthy folk, but the wealthy greedy are making money. Liz, I talked to her about that sometime late at night. We just get livid. They literally are making money off of this pain and pandemic rather than doing right by the people. Well, we got another friend called Sister Erica Alexander. I see Rob holding his hand up.
Yeah, can I just say real quick, just Erica too, but that for folks, we really want you to go to our website to make this call. It's easy to go to poorpeoplescampaign.org, or if you click in, if you're on Facebook, it's pinned as the first comment. There'll be a bit.ly link to call McConnell, and all you do is go there and you put your number in, and you'll actually get a call, which will put you on a switchboard to call McConnell. We've already filled up both of his DC offices. We've now switched over to his Louisville office. And so we're going to keep on going office to office. But when it changes at 5 o'clock to Eastern to Central, we'll go to the Central one that's still open. So we still need to keep on filling it up. If you can't get through, just keep on trying, because we know that you're probably going to get busy signal maybe the first time. We're collecting everyone's name that way so we can send the emails as well. So folks are doing a great job, but keep on and please share this video out so we can get some more folks as we get towards the end here at 5 p.m.
I told y'all didn't want Raw to be organized against you. Y'all better be glad if we're on our side. You see them glasses he got on look like Clark Kent. That's Superman on those glasses. I'm telling you right now. And you do not want him organized against you. I see Reverend Casimir over there. I'm gonna call on her in a minute from the West Coast to say a little bit something. Adam, I'm gonna get you too in this conversation. But you're right. This is it. Look, the bottom line is, can I say it like I would say? Now, why am I talking? I say I ain't never heard Reverend Bob talk like this. I used to do a little DJing, y'all. So I decided today I'm going back. Y'all lucky I don't have my skull cap on. So I'm serious. This is serious business. And I'm telling you, you know what they used to say. We didn't come for you, but you came for us. So now you're gonna get us. You came for us. All you had to do was treat folk right. All you had to do was take care of the poor and take care of health care. We have not asked these folk to do anything they don't have. I want y'all to hear that out in video land. Every congressman gets free health care. Every congressman gets a living wage plus. Every one of them has sick leave. Every one of them has unemployment. Every one of them has a decent retirement. How in the hell can you be in a body and you have things that you don't even want your constituents to have? That for me is a question that's just like when Jesus cursed the fig tree. How can you claim to be a fig tree and you're not even producing figs?
Right.
Come on, y'all. This is serious times. These are serious times. And we need that kind of love that is justice is what love looks like in public. We need that kind of love that tells the truth. Dr. King's last sermon, don't play. Dr. King's last sermon was going to be America may go to hell if she didn't change when it came to the poor and it came to the least of these. We need to unearth that and speak true prophetic truth. Now, we got Erica Alexander, who's from out in California. She used to be, y'all know her as Pam. Lord have mercy, some of you know her on Living Single.
The Cosby Show, yes, I did.
The Cosby Show, but she's so much more than that. She is an activist to her heart. She's a documentarian. She was a major role in the documentary that just came out about John Lewis, but this is a firebrand, y'all. I have found out this sister does not play, and she will tell you the truth and hope you hear it, and if you don't, she'll make sure you hear it again. And so I just want her to come speak some truth to her folk, and while she's pushing it out for people to jam this switchboard today and say, we're marching on Mitch McConnell. This is an old style city and with a new Jack City move.
That's what's up. Well, thank you, Bishop Barber. I really appreciate it. It's really nice to meet you, Reverend Liz. I've seen all of your work, and I've talked to Rob, and I really appreciate the work that you're doing. It's so vital and so instructive for me, because you have to know that Bishop Barber and I have become friends these past few months, but I've always admired him and thought that I would be able to meet him in life. So to actually be in on talking about the issues that you guys have been really putting your lives and your commitment, your energy in all these years is wonderful. But I wouldn't have known about this without Reverend Barber. He tells us what's going on and he sounds the alarm. He's an urgent care doctor, and he's always in there, and I really appreciate that. So whatever he tells me to do, I do. That's why I'm here. I'm here because he told me it was important. He told me what to do. He was very particular about the actions, and that to me is what people like me need. I need people to guide and steer me, because I agree with all that you're doing. And so if you're saying this is what we should be doing, that I am. The more I learn, by the way, Reverend Barber, I'm appalled. And I'm a little embarrassed that I'm always a little bit behind the cut. But if I'm with y'all right now, then I'm where it's at. So there you go.
And let me say to folk, Eric, because they might say, oh, Reverend Barber's tenor is up, the folk in Kentucky's tenor is up. But we also believe in the possibility of Mitch McConnell's redemption and all of these folk. But they will never change if they don't hear the truth. You can't change without truth. That's what people don't understand when they say we need reconciliation. You first have to have conciliation with the truth before you can have reconciliation with one another. And so if folk are stepping on people's feet, if people are dying now because of policy, for me as a clergy person, I can't go preach a funeral for somebody that died unnecessarily from COVID or died because they didn't have health care and stand up in that pulpit and say, well, God just called them home. I can say God welcomed them home, but I have got to call out what killed them. Otherwise, the folk will keep killing them and keep passing the policy. And even if they do keep doing it, there's a scripture in the Bible that says, at least they will know there has been a prophet among them. See, I'm not ever convinced that mean folk will change, but I know they don't have a chance to change if merciful people and good people don't speak the truth and speak it sure enough and serious. So thank you, Erica, for coming on. Thank you for lending your voice.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you for tweeting it out to all the people that you know. Tell them to go to www.ppc, peoplescampaign.org. Go to the site, click on it, call the number. DL said, don't call them what you normally call them. Call the number and talk about this. We need a comprehensive bill, a just bill, a loving bill. We need a bill that takes care of the unemployed. We don't need to lower unemployment. We need sick leave. We need rent moratoriums and we need everything they gave to the corporation. They gave the corporations everything they wanted. Everything they wanted, the corporation got. They said, we want $3 trillion here. We want another $1 trillion here. And when this man says that people are taking the unemployment and staying home, that's my definition of party. That's why I say he says we're just party. He says basically folk are taking the unemployment just so they can stay home and do nothing. We know that is not true. We know that is not true. We have too many people that are saying, I feel like every day I'm getting up, going to my own death. And this man would rather protect the corporations and their liability than the lives of the people. So please tweet it out, push it out. Erica, thank you so much for
Yes,
coming
sir.
on.
I'm gonna go get Saru for you so she come on too.
Yeah,
And,
do
go
it.
stand on the mountain right now. Yes,
That's
sir.
right. Oh, that's right. Take care now.
Thank you
All
for all
right.
you. Bye bye.
Well, I tell you, this is a serious, serious time. That we got thousands of people. I wish somebody would text Charmaine and let her know. I want to call the number out. I've heard there's thousands upon thousands of people taking action. So wherever you are, call somebody, get them on. Look, while you're on, go on Instagram and let folks know you're on. When you make your call, do it on Instagram so we can pick it up and know what's happening. Push it out there every way. Go to www.ppc.org. You got everything right there. You click on it, it'll make the call for you. If one line is busy, it'll click to the other line. If the other line is busy, to click. I thought we shut down 3 of them, I heard. So let's keep on. We're going global now. Then we're going to the West Coast. Casimir, what's up over there on the West Coast? You over there in LA, and it's about 1 o'clock over there. You are AME. Do AMEs have righteous indignation about stuff like this? I mean, you're the national director of religious affairs now, and I know you know I've heard you be kind of fiery. What's up? What's up? Talk to us. Talk to us.
Yes, AME do have some fire when it comes to justice and faith. For me, when I think about this, and you've heard it and you've been saying it, that this is serious, and it makes no sense. People are dying, people are hurting, and they don't have to be. We literally have leadership whose job is to serve the people. Elected to serve the people, yet they're blocking healthcare, they're blocking living wages. And how is that serving anybody? We want those in office that claim that they are serving in leadership capacities to pass a sufficient bill, pass a compassionate bill, pass a just bill. But right now we have too many people dying. Too many lives have been lost. So I do want to take this time also for those who know of lives that have been lost due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Lift up their names right now. Call them out. Write them in the chat. We want their names to be lifted because every single person, every single life lost should be recognized. It's not just a number. These are lives lost. These are family members, loved ones. Not just a number. These are neighbors, our parents, our grandparents, our cousins. We want to lift their names up. We want to honor them. We want to recognize them right now. Yes, we're calling out leadership, but we're calling out the names who have been lost. Too many. And enough is enough.
That's right.
Right now, we're calling on you not only to call Mitch, but lift up those names.
And what they might do too, to add to that, that's a great, powerful way of saying that, because many of our prophets, and I don't see prophets just as folk who wear God. Pamela Rush was prophetic, and she died unnecessarily of COVID. And the Bible says we're not just supposed to love the tombs of the prophets. So you just said something. Look, y'all, call the number and say, I'm calling on behalf of Pamela Rush or your loved one who just died or somebody you know. And I'm calling in their name. They can't breathe anymore, but I can breathe. And since I still have some breath, I'm calling this office to say, you are the leader of the Senate. You tell your folk to stand down, stop fighting a just bill, get in there with the Democrats, forget Democrat and Republican, and put a right bill. I mean, we challenge Democrats. So media, if you're on, don't say we just do this on one side. We're saying to everybody. But right now what we're saying is Mitch McConnell is like that blockage. He's the Senate leader. He can put it under his desk. He can stop it. He can move it. He could get up tomorrow and say, I was wrong. And we need this right now. And they could do it in 15 minutes. 15 minutes. They don't need another 15 days. He could do that. He has that kind of power to do that. He has so much, if he's got enough power to give the corporation $3-4 trillion, I know what he could do if his heart was right, and his heart can't get right unless we challenge him. And if his heart doesn't get right, we're going to put pressure on him, and we're going to make sure we're going to tell everybody. We're not telling them who to vote for. We're going to tell them what he did. And so call in people's name, call in their names today. Now I got another friend, Casimir, that's dropping on. The Liz, come off mute, because I want you to say, hey, this brother, I hope he'll have you on someday on the Breakfast Club, because Charlemagne, if you're on now, Reverend Liz, through your hair ain't nothing but the truth. I'm telling you, Doc. But he had me on the Breakfast Club. I texted him last night. He said, man, I want to be a part of this. I want to tell my folks to call in, because we know that yes, when we talk about 30 million people who just got off unemployment, disproportionate number that's going to be African Americans and people of color. When we talk about all of these folk now that don't have access to health care, we're talking about millions of people, on the brink of starving and not having access to food. We know it's going to be disproportionate number of people of color. And Brother Charlemagne the God, he deals with these issues. He's always saying, when we talk to candidates, and this is not about endorsing candidates, but he says, whenever we talk to politicians, we should be talking to them not about, can I get a key to the city? Will you send a special letter on my anniversary? The only reason to be talking to them is about policy. Policy.
That's right. And
any piece of policy that doesn't have what we call a budget line, it ain't policy, y'all. Let me just say that. If it doesn't have a budget line on it, it's not serious. So when people ask me, are you supporting this? I said, what's the budget line? How's it going to impact poverty? How's it going to impact healthcare? How's it going to impact living wages? Because the bottom line is, whether it's the Senate or the House or the legislature or the government, the county commissioners or city council, they all operate the budgets. Somebody said politics is really about who gets what, when, where, and how. And it is an ugly thing that the folk are robbing our bank. They're robbing our bank to give trillions of dollars to the corporation. And in the middle of COVID, it was bad enough before COVID. It was bad enough we didn't have health care and living wage before COVID. But now, it's a damn shame. And we cannot be quiet anymore. Hey, Liz, say hello to Charlemagne so he'll know your voice when you call him.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank you for being with us, Charlemagne the God. We're really appreciative of you adding your voice to the thousands and thousands and thousands of voices that are calling in and calling this Mitch McConnell out for all the death and destruction that he's having. So thanks for being with us and adding your voice to the numbers.
Oh, so, we ain't letting him hide no more. He been hiding under Trump's church, He been hiding under all the antics. Ain't no more hiding, Mitch.
The interesting part is, he's the reason that I don't even think we're going to have a fair election in November. I think that I don't think people made enough noise when he blocked a couple of election security bills. This is after finding out that we know there was Russian interference. So it's just like you're already, trying to keep people from having a fair election in November, and it's just like that's not what democracy is all about. So
that's right.
A person like that don't care about the people in any way, shape, or form. Because you're trying to disrupt democracy. You're not trying to implement no legislation or no type of reparations to make sure that the people who need it can, come out of this pandemic at least on their feet. And that's gonna be difficult because they was already on their back to begin with.
There you go.
So yeah, whatever noise we can make around, pressuring him to do what's right, we got to do it. But I don't think it's going to happen.
That's right. Well, he's a mean one, but we're not going to let him think we're going to be quiet anymore. That's the point, and then folk need to use this, what we're doing today, because we're trying to put it on. Don't think just getting rid of Trump is it. So y'all need to hear what we're saying. And then if you're going to mobilize, if you're going to massively register and vote and all that kind of stuff, you need to be looking at these Senate races. We're targeting them. And McConnell is the controller of that Senate, Doc. I don't have it right in front of me, but I can tell you, Charlemagne, I know it's been 2,500 and about almost 90 days. That's 7+ years that he sat on the Voting Rights Act. And when the Supreme Court gutted it on June 25th, he could have fixed it on June 26th. That's what the Supreme Court said. We're gutting it, but we're throwing it to the Congress. He has blocked it from being fixed over 7 years. Now, as you said, if we're in the streets when a cop kills a black man, and we should be, one man, well, voter suppression allows people to get elected whose policies kill thousands of people.
Yeah, and did you remember, this was like about a month ago when they had the election, I believe it was in Kentucky, right? And look what they locked the doors.
Right.
And wouldn't let people come in to vote. That's Mitch McConnell's state. That's blatant voter suppression, in a real way. I don't feel like we've been making enough noise about this devil we're facing in Mitch McConnell. Same person who said he wanted to make Barack Obama a one-term president. He's fighting against progress at every turn.
He called himself, Charlemagne the God, the Grim Reaper. In a fundraiser, he said, listen, I'm going to stop all this. He said, call me the Grim Reaper. He pointed to his folks himself. I'm the Grim Reaper when it comes to health care, when it comes to voting rights, because that's socialism. But let me tell you something so you can there's some folk up here Tanya, is Tanya still here? That's on Kentucky. And you need to know this, Doc. They organizing from the holler to the hood. They straight up serious.
Okay.
And they turned the governor's race down. There are folk on this call that took 4 counties in Kentucky that were quote unquote extreme counties that voted for Trump, and in the last election they turned. They didn't even endorse the candidate. They endorsed an agenda like you be talking about, and they got people to turn on an agenda. They said, "Vote for your agenda, not just for a personality." And they shifted the governor's position in Kentucky with that strategy. So this is serious, but we want to shut down. We want to blow up that switchboard with calls today. And I'm really thinking about, we might be doing this every Monday. Raj, you better watch out, because brother, you're right. We can't be silent now. We can't be silent at the ballot box. We can't be silent afterwards, because I'm telling you, I did a piece the other night. I think I sent it to you. If you look at 30 million people without health care, and 15 million of them are people of color, and Harvard says 5,600 people or so die for every 1 million people that do not have health care. Every 6.25 minutes, a person of color is dying from the denial of health care.
Wow.
That's George Floyd, yes, but every 6 point, and when you look at a whole year, more people die from the public policy violence perpetrated by folk like Mitch McConnell than are killed by the cops every year.
Wow.
But it's just not on camera, brother. It's
Listen,
just not on camera.
Reverend Barber, what's the organization you was just talking about in Kentucky? The one you just mentioned?
Poor People's Campaign. Poor People's Campaign. Yeah.
We need to have y'all on the Breakfast Club soon, because you know I'm not the highest grade of weed in the dispensary. It's brothers and sisters that's on the ground doing this work that's way smarter than me and way more active than me. I just got the platform, so I'd love to have y'all on, and speak more to this, so we can really blow up that switchboard in Kentucky.
That's right.
Mr. McConnell know that we making a lot of noise out here.
Well, Anna, you heard it. Father, you heard it.
Yes,
Pam, you
we'd
just
love to
heard
be
it.
with you.
All right, so we're gonna make that happen. Thank you, Charlamagne, for telling your folk to join us and call that switchboard today. God bless you. No, take care.
Brother. Peace.
Hey, say something, Tanya, to him while he's still up. Hold on.
I want to hey, 859-492-0397, right here in Kentucky, from the hood to the holler. Charlamagne, we coming on. Give him the damn donkey of the day for the week.
Let's do it.
Give it to him.
No, I'm gonna have Tanya. I'm gonna have you and Arnold on with Reverend Barber like soon. Just text me, Reverend Barber. We'll make it happen.
We'll work it out.
All right.
Thank you, my brother.
Peace.
Look, everybody on the screen, y'all go to the bottom, go to www.poorpeoplescampaign.org, go to the site, start making calls, call somebody, get them to make calls, Instagram yourself while you're doing the call, put it out there. We need this to happen. It's happening. I'm telling you. Somebody call Charlamagne, give her a text. I need to know the numbers, because I'm hearing the numbers are crazy out there on this Monday. March on Mitch McConnell. Old style sit-in with New Jack City call in using digital. Y'all better watch it. As my buddy Freddie Haynes said, we didn't call for you, but you called for us, so we here, baby. That's how it's gonna be. And y'all done took me back to when I was 20 years old on the radio. Y'all can shame yourself. Well, listen. Right now, as we're in the middle, we always got to have a little song in the midst of everything we're doing. We can't just do this. So I'm getting ready to go, first of all, to my brother Fernando Garcia, Border Network down in El Paso. That brother is serious. That man loves people. He loves truth. He loves doing what's right. He's my friend. He's Liz's friend. He's a friend of the movement. I'd go anywhere and stand with this brother. Been at the border, been at that ungodly wall. This brother and the people down there, our brothers and sisters, Latino brothers and sisters, they are the backbone of truth and justice in this community. And there's whole other level of suffering that's just not being talked about. Part of the thing in the media, we stop talking about stuff too soon. We need to be talking about what's happening in these so-called ICE detention jails now, and how people are dying. And we cannot let this stuff stay silent and stay undercover. So Fernando, talk to us about why even in El Paso, and the people know, we need to be really pushing McConnell and pushing him hard, and pushing other senators to push him hard, that he needs to do right. He's not going to get a pass on this.
And remember, today being the anniversary, right?
Talk about it, Liz.
Of the Walmart shooting 1 year ago. Right. And we launched the Poor People's Campaign, We Must Do More, mobilizing, organizing, registering, educating people for a movement that votes tour, right, in El Paso, about a week after that. So we do appreciate you being here with us today, Fernando.
And a week before, we were right there near that Walmart when we went to the detention center. And then the week later, and Fernando, I want folk out there to know, Liz, you're right. Fernando and the people said, come back. Because we're not going to let the murderer have the last say. We're not going to let the assassin, the racist have the last word. We're not going to let our people's lives just end like that. He said, if they killed us a week ago, then come back in a few weeks and let the resurrection begin. Let the we must do more tour begin, even while we're still crying. And I'll never forget that, Liz, and thank you so much. Come on, Fernando, and talk to us across the nation.
Yeah, thanks for having me again here, Roland, Barber, Liz, Ronald, Liz. It has been a journey. These last 20 years working at the border, you had seen, we thought we had seen everything, and obviously that was not the case. Today, in the midst of this pandemic, dozens of community members came together to carry out a memorial and a call to action. And specifically, we want to tell our nation that we will not forget what happened a year ago. 23 of our community members were killed, and many other, dozens of them were injured. And it is important to tell the nation that this was not just a single killer coming to El Paso. It was the combination of systems that they came together to actually provoke and cause injury to our community. The first one was the weapons of war in our streets. AK-47s, R-15s are the ones that actually are still out there. Nothing has changed in regards to that evil system of weapons of war. The second system that came together that day a year ago was white supremacy. White supremacy is not new, but there was a resurgence of white supremacy, especially towards immigrants, Mexicans, in other communities of color throughout the nation. And the third element, the one that actually fueled everything in the minds of this shooter, this terrorist, it was the rhetoric of President Trump and other politicians in Washington. That rhetoric that we're calling immigrants and Mexicans, criminals, rapists, animals, and infestation. So we will not forget that what happened was not only a problem of mental health, but was a problem or evil systems in our community. So we came together, we did a procession with 23 crosses, actually monumental crosses. We marched to that Walmart again, and it was very painful. The wounds still open. There's no healing, and I think it will not be healing. You know that. It will not be healing until we achieve justice, equality, and dignity for our community. So I think that is why it's important for us to join you in the efforts of the Poor People's Campaign today, a year ago, but also a year from now, and count with people at the border, with residents at the border to join this effort to change society.
But Fernando, you said it, until we deal with this sickness, this is not a mental health sickness, it's the sickness that grows out of the evil and the heresy of racism as it's connected to economic. When I say racism, I'm not just talking about Black people. I'm talking about the racism toward First Nation indigenous people, the racism toward our, always think about how we don't even tell the truth, about that, about how, Mexico was anti-slavery before America. That was the whole reason why the slave owners in Texas wanted to break away from Mexico. We don't tell about, what Trump is doing and has done is just the regurgitation, if you will, the vomit of what Eisenhower did, with the operation so-called wetback. We just like 100 years ago, we were dealing with the same thing, a pandemic. The president was a racist. He was playing the racism. He lied about the pandemic. He told people it was the Spanish flu, not the swine flu, to try to blame it on a certain people. And it cost 650,000 lives, and we never repented. We never repented, and there never will be repentance until there's righteous indignation and preaching and calling it out. And that's why we have to do this. And that's why I want to just honor what you all did today. I want to say something. I hope you can send us some video that we can push out to the whole nation about this. And the reason why I want to read the scripture, if I can pull it up real quick, because it speaks to this issue. God said in the book of Amos, a prophet, he said, whenever it's chapter 5, we often hear the scripture that says, let justice roll down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream. The problem is, how do you get to that? And that's what happens. People don't read the scriptures before that says how you get to that. It doesn't just happen. And God doesn't even do it. Let justice roll down the water and righteousness like a mighty stream per se. The scripture in Amos 5 starts with, we are in a time of lying. All of them are lying. And it's gotten to the point that even righteous folk feel like there's no hope. And then in verse 16, God says, Amos, right now, when it's hurting, when they got a people that feel like it's no hope, I want you to go out and find a remnant of people. Not everybody, but I need a remnant of people who will go in the street and cry and refuse to stop crying. It's interesting, God doesn't even say go and shout. He doesn't go and say just speak out. He says go cry, lament. And he says, I want you to weep loudly. And I want you to weep while you're weeping. I want you to say, not me, not us, not on our time. No more. We're sick of it. We're tired of it. He said, I want you to cry until you empty the offices. I want you to folk to have to come out there because you're crying so bad. I want people to get up out of their factories because you're crying so bad. I want you to empty the workplaces because you're crying. I want you to invite everybody to cry. This is prophetic to you. I want you to make them see what they're doing. Just like Emmett Till's mama said, you're going to look at this. I can't get my son back, but you're not going to go. You're going to look at this. Or just like when they made sure we saw Jimmy Lee Jackson or Swanna Cheney and Goodman. You know, there's a place in which we can't put our pain back in our chest anymore. We can't put it back inside of our heads. It kills us. No, if you did this, you're going to live with it too. If you did this, you're going to hurt too. That's why we're going to have families to start coming forward whose people die from COVID and die from not having health care and saying we're going to have funerals online and we're going to say, this is not natural. This is not of God. God said to Amos, and when you cry and you get everybody to cry, and God says, I want to hear it. And then God says, and then I will make a visit. And it's after that that justice rolls down like water and righteousness like a mighty stream. So what you did today is, in fact, the beginning of justice. It may not feel like it. It may hurt like all get out, right? And that's why we need some video from down there, because we are not going to let this nation be okay while we are dying. It's over. No more. No more. Because if we let them be okay, it will continue. It's only in history, it's only been when moral movements have forced America to see herself and see all of the ugliness that we've had modicums of change. Modicums of change. And if all of us get together, we can put this on front line. You know, they think just because COVID and we didn't have our march on June 20th that that's it. Oh no, they don't understand. We got 2-3 million people that came on. You just wait till June 2021. And if some stuff don't stop moving. Or anybody play, as I said, this is serious. So Fernando, we will never forget you. We'll never forget the people. We need our Latino brothers and sisters to call Mitch too, because he's just as bad as Trump. He has said some of the most ugly things, and his policy, he could have stopped Trump from all of this stuff with ICE. If he and his senators had gone to that White House like senators did years ago to Richard Nixon and said, stop it. Don't ever forget, Trump has some power. He can sign an executive order, but Mitch McConnell can pass a bill. An executive order ends with the president. A bill can last 20, 30 years beyond when it's passed. So we're putting a real clear picture on Mitch McConnell. My brother, I wish I could touch and hug y'all, do it over the video, but I love you, man. I love the people. And we cry with you, we weep with you, and we're never going to forget one another, and we're going to stand together.
And we appreciate the times that both of you, Reverend Liz and Reverend Barber, came to El Paso. You actually been here several times already. I think that it shows your commitment to our community. People are still thinking about you. We want you to come again whenever it's possible. I think it's important to understand that what happened in Walmart a year ago was was part of a number of things. It was not the only thing that happened. It was the culmination of an strategy of fear and violence against our community. You remember that the days before that shooting, we had children in cages. We had the construction of border walls, the rejection of refugees and asylum seekers. I mean, it was part of a package. I mean, it was just not only the attack, which was bad enough, but it was a whole system that actually that the intention was to hurt our community that is so resilient and had acted with so much solidarity and dignity. So, but we're here, we're there, we're gonna call Congress, we're gonna call Mitch McConnell, and I think he's a big part of the problem. And we're looking forward to really having a major change in the next few months and next few years in terms of how this country is gonna look like in 50 years. I mean, we don't want this. We want something different, and it's going to be through this national movement how we're going to accomplish it. So thank you.
It was bad enough before. We don't want to go back to normal, but we sure don't want to go more abnormal. We don't want normal, but this is you know, and we got to change some stuff, and it can't just be Trump. And we got to tell it like we tell it. I never told you this, Fernando. I'll tell you today, because I didn't want to glorify the person that said it. I didn't want it to be a concern. But when we plan to come down, and I told Liz, I think, to do the beginning of the We Must Do More tour. And, you know, there was some folk that was like, well, why would you go to El Paso? And we said, because the folks said come. And because they just, and there was some debate, you know, people saying, well, you know, and I actually got a message that said, if you come to El Paso, we're going to make sure you choke on your own blood. Glorify the person that said it. I didn't want it to be a concern. Because it wasn't about, when we plan to come down, and I told Liz, I think, to do the beginning of the We Must Do More tour. And, you know, there was some folks that separate Latino and black and white. We just can't do that. Because they just, and there was some debate, you know, people saying, well, you know, we're in this together. And I actually got a message that said, if you come to El Paso, we're going to make sure you choke on your own blood. In these moments, all of us glorify the person that said it. I didn't want it to be a concern. Because it wasn't about, when we plan to come down, and I told Liz, I think, to do the beginning of the We Must Do More tour. And, you know, there was some folks that was like, what would I do if I knew I just can't do it? Because they just, and there was some debate, you know, people saying, well, you know, and I actually got a message that said, if you come to El Paso, really take a different moment. All of us glorify the person never said it. I didn't want it to be a concern because it wasn't about, you know, there's always going to be a remnant, and the remnant's going to be strong. And so we're brothers. I know Liz feels the same way. Let her talk. She just came off mute. And then we're going to go to hold on while you are calling, while you're calling people, while you are texting people and telling them to call. Look, let's go, y'all. Come on, let's don't back off now. Go to ppc.org. Look down at the bottom of your screen. There's a link there. Click on it. Let's call, let's make these calls, let's get other people to call. We got some more switchboards to shut down on the West Coast. We got some more to shut down on the East Coast. They're gonna know this is serious, and we're here and we're not going anywhere. Let it go. Let the media are on this call monitoring what we're doing. So let them know we are very serious. So after Liz, let's go to the video. Hold on.
Yeah, I just wanted to add my appreciation for the organizing work that you're doing, Fernando. You've taught us about this idea of permanently organized communities, and that's the kind of power we have to build if we're going to actually be able to get folks like Mitch McConnell out, if we're going to be able to get this Jubilee policy platform forward, we're going to be able to build a kind of power and organization amongst the 140 million and growing poor and low-income people. And you've also taught us about how everything that they try at the border then moves to the interior. We've been seeing this in the protests of the past couple of weeks, the militarized police, border patrol that you all have been working with and dealing with for decades, you know, now is you know, policing protesters as folks demand economic and racial justice across the country. And so just like we follow your lead in terms of building permanently organized communities, we also learn from you how to deal with these militarized communities that so many of us, in Kentucky, in Michigan, in New York, and in Texas are dealing with today. And so just really appreciating your leadership and appreciating the power that we're building here on this online action today, right? I mean, Reverend Barber was saying, we have shut down at least 7 offices. We've left thousands of messages, and we've talked to calling to folks that are working the offices in places all across Kentucky, all across DC, all across this country, that our voices are being heard. Somebody has been hurting our sisters, our brothers, our people, our children, our parents, our grandparents, our immigrants, and it's gone on for far too long. And so we do need to have people keep calling, keep trying when you don't get through, because they're clearly reacting to us and this Moral Monday.
Yeah, if you can't get through, see, they shut it down. So keep calling. Don't you give up. Now, let me tell you, they're not going to give up. I see somebody saying, I've tried. I get a full mailbox. Keep trying. They will not give up. Mitch McConnell will stay up all night to pass a bad bill for corporations. They don't give up. And so we can't give up. We have to be even more tenacious. I hear somebody said that we need term limits. We got them. It's called voting. Every 2 years, we got a term limit. And let me tell you something, poor and low wealth people organized can put anybody in office or out of office. We don't endorse candidates, we endorse an agenda. But let me tell you something, if poor and low wealth people of every race, creed, color, term limit anybody we want to, we have the power. We've just got to realize that we have the power. Stop believing what they're saying, and we can't be voting for personality. We've got to vote for principles. We got our own principles have to drive us out. Our own values have to drive us out. Our own agenda, and then we stay involved after. Because even if we didn't elect them, they're going to hear from us. Once they get elected, they are not the Republican senator. They are senator. They're the Republican legislator, and we are the constituents, and we cannot back up. Don't ever forget, we did not win the Voting Rights Act in an election year. August 6th was when it was signed. It was in the middle of 1965. The elections were over. Nobody changed office that year. What happened was the people changed the atmosphere. They changed the political context. And even politicians like Johnson and others who did not want to see a Voting Rights Act passed, they had to vote for it, not because they had an election coming up, but because the people elected to join together and build a moral fusion movement that would not be denied. And they didn't just do one march or one tweet either. It took days. It was built on top of years. It came out of permanently organized community. It wasn't just John Lewis. It was a whole lot of folk. I could tell you the story, trace all the way back to the 1920s. Let's be clear. We are building a moral fusion movement deep, 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 not just for a season, but until justice rolls down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream. So thank you so much, Liz. Thank you so much, Brother Garcia. Thank you so much. And Liz, you need to write a piece, and we need to come back and talk about that. Y'all, if you're concerned about what they're doing to Black Lives Matter in the street over policing, you got to understand they did the same thing to folk on the border. And people kind of dismissed it. Wasn't in the news. They practice on our Latino brothers and sisters. And they practice on our indigenous brothers and sisters. Don't ever forget that. That's why we can't be separated. Everything we see now happening in Portland and all, they practice it at the border, and they practice it at the reservations, and then they bring it forward. That's why we can't let evil be over there and say, well, it's just those folk. Because if it's over there, evil is just like a bad breath. It smells up the whole room. Anyway, that's just a little joke coming out from tomorrow Monday. Mitch McConnell march in and call in old time action with a new Jack twist. Come on, let's hear the video.
Thank you.
All right, so you're gonna stay on and tell me when it's almost over?
You what?
You're gonna stay on and tell me when it's almost over?
Yeah, I'll stay on.
Hey, Bishop Barber. The video is playing now, they can't hear us. So, Eric Alexander's asking you to retreat. Back on.
My brothers and sisters, we have 4 minutes and about 30 seconds before we end this video, but not end the action. Listen, Mitch McConnell, the leader of the Senate, has all the power in the Senate, give me a second, to do what needs to be done. Don't let anybody fool you. And while you may have heard Rob a little bit talking a minute ago while the video was on hold on, that's because we can't take any time off. We got to be organizing all the time. We might have a glitch here, but we got a worse glitch in the Senate. 30 million workers who are receiving $600 a week have been cut off from unemployment. One man, Mitch McConnell, is the cause of that. He could call that, he could make his Republican senators come into, he's got that kind of power, y'all. He could tell them, stand down and let's do the right thing. But he told us weeks ago, he wasn't going to accept anything if it did not have provisions against corporations being sued for libel when they made people work in unsafe conditions and didn't provide them the PPE. He said that from the beginning. He has called himself the Grim Reaper and said he's the one, not anybody else. He said, I am the Grim Reaper. And I'm going to block anything that I think is socialism, i.e. healthcare, i.e. living wages. He's even blocked voting rights for 7 years. I don't care how he smiles. I don't care how he claims he's got a few black friends that had nothing to do with public policy. Nothing. I don't care how many times he talks about Tim Scott being his great friend. That has absolutely nothing to do with public policy. It's like AOC said the other day, you're not going to hide underneath, you have daughters to say you're not a man that's anti-women and vicious toward women. You're not going to hide behind a black friend and think that we're going to back up off of you, Mitch McConnell. No, you have engaged in racist and policy violence. You're hurting the people in your own state, and you're hurting people all over this country. 27 million more people are going to need health care now, on top of the 87 million people that already are underinsured or uninsured. And that's you, Mitch McConnell. You could pass universal health care. 20 to 28 million people are now at risk of homelessness. And that's not Trump, that's you, because you are the Senate leader. And you all could pass everything that needs to be passed. You could have done it. You could have done it before COVID. In fact, if you had done it before COVID, we wouldn't be in some of the problems you have now. And there are thousands and thousands and thousands of people in Kentucky alone that need the types of things we're talking about. And do not try to suggest that this is just about black folk, because on this line, you got black and white and brown and red and yellow and gay and straight. Because of your policies, because you passed 3 bills and you made sure that $3-4 trillion went to the corporations. And you did not guarantee family sick leave, and you did not guarantee health care, you did not guarantee rent and mortgage forgiveness. Now, some 10 to 17 million people are food insecure in the midst of a pandemic. Now, 50 to 60 million people are going hungry because they were already facing it before with the 140 million people that were poor and low wealth before COVID. And you didn't address poverty then. But what you have done is you've made sure that there's been the biggest transfer of wealth from poor and working people ever in the history of this country in the middle of COVID. What you have done is you're trying now to give another $250 billion. That's what you're holding out for in this bill. What you've now done is you're trying to give another $30 billion to the military they haven't even asked for, on top of an $800 billion military budget. What you have done is said you want legal immunity to corporations rather than protect the workers. What you have done is the policies that you have forced through. You've allowed the wealthiest to make $750 billion in the midst of COVID. And yes, Mitch McConnell, people have died. The Boston Globe said something a few weeks ago that I say to you, and I say we all should say to Mitch McConnell. They said, when we look at all of this stuff that's going on, there's blood on Trump's hand. Mitch, there's blood on your hands. You have engaged in evil legislation. You've legislated against the poor. You've legislated against the people in the holler and in the hood of Kentucky. You've legislated against sick people. Yes, history will record it, but we're not going to wait for history. We're calling it out now. We're challenging you now. I hope you'll change, because we really don't hate you. We hate what you're doing. We really know if you have the capacity to do wrong, you got the capacity to do right, but you got to repent, you got to change. That's why your phones are on fire today. That's why people are calling in, and that's why we're going to keep doing it. That's why we're sending you Bibles, because you need to read it, my brother. That's why we're sending you constitutions. But you can bet one thing. As long as our people are hurting, as long as our people are dying, you don't get a pass anymore, brother. You don't get to hide behind Trump. You don't get to talk about what Trump is doing is wrong when he says a few wrong words, and every day you're pushing wrong policies and blocking right policies. You don't get a pass anymore. You don't get to hide behind, you don't get to be quiet and operate in the shadows anymore. Our people are dying, and it's gone on far too long, and we won't be silent anymore. Rob, I want to take 2 questions from the chat, or 2 things you've seen on the chat that people have said before we sign off at 5, because we want people to keep calling. The West Coast is still open. We want people to keep rolling, but there's been some things you said. Read something off that you seen today from the chat.
Let's pull it up. And Casimir, if you want to come off mute, I don't know if you've been looking at any of those pieces as well. Maybe reading some of the names of the people that have, there's lots that have been put in there of people who have died from COVID that we want to lift up as well.
Yes, we've gotten a lot of names. Some of them that have been lifted up are Marjorie Patterson Moses, Derek Coley, Catherine Council, Deacon Pearl Slay,
wow,
Michael Edelman, Carol Norrie, Jeannie Merzen, Edward Jagowitzki, Lois Thomas, Mona Murphy, Ed Blatchford, Frank Siemens, Vivian Leedy, Amanda Chasey, Jonathan Phelps, William Clapham, Janet L. Sylvian, Judy Daughtry, Ruth Doyley, Shirley Bennett, and the list continues.
On and on, on and on. Yeah, yeah. Casimir, I just read something too. This one lady named Nelma Knight, she said something real powerful. She says, you know what they're doing? After they leave Congress, their benefits should stop. She said, in fact, all their benefits ought to stop until they do right by a constituency. That's the kind of people we have on this Zoom today. That's the kind of people that you are the kind of people. And I'm saying to you as a preacher, is I want you to do nothing violent. We don't do violence. But it's time to raise your voice. It's time to lament loudly. It's no more time to just be nice. Peacefulness is not, oh, would you please do something for me? Peacefulness is when you demand justice.
That's right.
You can have righteous indignation full of love. You can be angry and sin not. You can cry loud. You can let the trumpet sound. You can cry. My mama used to tell me, I'm a black woman. I can cry and fight and think at the same time, all three things. Just because I'm crying don't mean I'm not thinking. Well, you're emotional. Yeah, I'm emotional because I'm empirical. I have a reason. My emotion is rooted in good sense.
That's good.
And it's time for folk to let it go. Yes, about police violence. But as Coretta Scott King said as I close, don't you ever forget that violence is also not paying people a living wage. Violence is also poverty. Violence is also denying people health care. As one writer said, it's a crime to be murdered, but it ain't a crime to be the murdered. It's a crime, and it's a crime to commit murder. It's not a crime to be murdered. It's a crime for all this poverty to exist and to promote the poverty. It's not a crime to be poor. The crime is that poverty exists because of the policies. And then Coretta Scott King, as I go back, I was doing a little mixing there. But Coretta Scott King said at the end of the day, she said, and also there's another form of violence, an apathetic attitude that refuses to say anything about the violence. Mm-hmm. My grandmother, who never went to college, said it like this. Boy, and she could call me boy, if somebody's stepping on your feet and you don't tell them to get off, then what motivation do they have to move? Mm-hmm. These policies are strangling people, just like George Floyd was strangled out on that sidewalk. These policies are lynching people, just like George Floyd was lynching. And I think sometimes some people don't want us to see it that way. They want to see it as disconnected, right? So they want us to be moved by one thing and not moved by another. But if we're going to be concerned about death and violence against human beings, then we have to be concerned about these public policies. And we can't just go after the cops that do it. We got to go after the Congress people that do it. We can't just go after the officers of the law that kill people in the street. We got to deal with the senators and the sweeps. Because the only thing different between the policy violence and a knee on the top of the neck of somebody then being strangled on the street corner is the death that comes from policy violence is often not put on camera. Not only must the revolution be televised, but all this pain has got to be televised. And if it's not televised, it's got to be telecommunicated. That means we have to tell it and refuse to be silent anymore. We've been glad to have you on this first Monday March on Mitch McConnell, a digital call-in, sit-in, stand-in. Y'all know who we are. You know we would have been on Independence Avenue. You know when it's time, we'll be there too. You know we'll be in the office, but we're not going to call people out right now in the midst of all this COVID. But don't you think that we're shutting down? No way, no way, no how are we shutting down. This is an old style city. is, and we won't be silent anymore. Peace and power. Love you. Forward together, not one step back. Love you, Liz. Love you, Tanya. Love you from Kentucky. Love you, Casimir. And Rob, you know you Superman under those glasses. Keep on doing what you do. I'm out. I'll see you on the next Monday. Take care.
Thank you.
Peace.
Forward together.
One step back.
Step